A pleasant good morning to the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, his ministers, ministers of state and members, to the Leader of the Opposition, her members, and Madam Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, who through Jesus Christ has revealed your glory to all nations, please protect and preserve Belize, our beloved country. God of might, wisdom, and justice, please assist our Belizean government and people with your Holy Spirit of counsel and fortitude. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct their plans and endeavors, so that with your help we may attain your just objectives. With your guidance, may all our endeavors tend to peace, social justice, liberty, national happiness, the increase of industry, sobriety, and useful knowledge. We pray, O God of mercy, for all of us, that we may be blessed with the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your most holy law, that we may be preserved in union and in that peace which the world itself cannot give. And after enjoying the blessings of this life, please admit us, dear Lord, to that eternal reward that you have prepared for those who love you. Amen. God bless you all. Good morning.
Presentation of reports from select committees.
I recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay on the table sessional paper number HR 12/1/14. Report from the Finance and Economic Development Committee on the Central Bank of Belize Amendment Bill 2025. Thank you.
Honorable members, that report is ordered to lie on the table. I recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay on the table sessional papers number HR 13/1/14, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the Bill 2025. I also sessional paper number HR 14/1/14, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the Law Revision and Law Reform Bill 2025. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sessional paper HR 15/1/14, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the National Assembly Powers, Privilege and Immunities Bill 2025. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, those reports are ordered to lie on the table.
Statement by Minister.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Investment, Economic Transformation, Civil Aviation and E-Governance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. And can I just ask at this time for all of us to, in a moment of silence when you are alone, to give a short prayer for Madam Speaker, Valerie Woods, who is undergoing for treatment as a serious part of the treatment today, and we ask everybody to give a prayer for her fast recovery. and that we are looking out for her. That said, Mr. Speaker, I want to begin this morning by updating the nation on a major crisis facing our cane farmers and more so the people of the North. I just received a short WhatsApp message from Marcos Osorio, who is the chairman of the Sugar Industry Control Board. And he said, "Good morning, Prime Minister. At 7:57 this morning, the mill ran out of cane, bringing the 2024-2025 crop season to an end. Thank God the industry completes one more crop to be one of the most, if not the most challenging one. Cane production down due to weather, pest, and now the fusarium disease. Milling rate for the season was low due to challenging field conditions and limited workforce for cane harvest and delivery, low sugar output, and a low cane price estimate. The sugar industry is at a very difficult time and requires all hands on deck, GOB, farmers, and miller, to join forces to work on a plan of action to take the industry forward. The resilience of farmers is put to test, but together we'll find and implement solutions to advance the industry, and we will succeed." For sure, the sugar industry is in probably its most serious crisis, actually an existential crisis, and we must do everything that we can within our power to address this issue. For those not involved in the sugar industry, there's a disease called named fusarium wilt disease that is currently ravaging sugarcane fields in the north. Yesterday, at a meeting with the leaders of the Cane Farmers Association and the Sugar Control SICB, the Ministry of Agriculture, Minister Mai was there along with Minister Martinez and Dr. Avila. We spoke a bit on this. One of the things that was surprising to me, and I guess to most Belizeans, is apparently this fungus. It's a fungus, it's a fungus, has been around for about 30 years. But what has happened because of the weather conditions, extreme water last year, and then the drought, it has allowed, it have been the perfect conditions for this to be able to multiply very quickly. Mexico has been decimated here in the south, and they're hoping for recovery next year. So last November, the Sugar Industry Research and Development Institute, CIRDI, the Belize Agricultural Health Authority, BAHA, and the Ministry of Agriculture conducted a field assessment and determined that more than 60,000 acres of sugarcane were infested with fusarium wilt disease. The assessment concluded that 8,060 acres that were severely infested, with most of the other 35,500 infested fields were mildly infected. The predictions were that overall, this would mean a 30% or 215,000 tons lost in cane production. The assessment also indicated that there will be a significant reduction in yield per acre, as well as a fall in the quality of cane harvested, affecting efficiencies both at the field level as well as at the factory at BSI. The effect of it all is that today the sugar crop has come to an end, and it will be one of the worst sugar crops we've had in a long time. By this morning, again, the estimate is around 880,000 tons of cane would have been delivered. What's even worse is that the tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar has been even worse. The current tons per cane, tons of sugar stands at 11.12 tons of sugar of cane for 1 ton of sugar. When the cane is really good, you're getting probably about 9 tons of cane for 1 ton of sugar. So we are using another 2 tons and a quarter more to be able to make 1 ton of sugar. So this is by far the worst we've had production in recent history in the industry since 2011. BSI will produce just over 78,000 tons of sugar. For contents, this year the factory will produce 97,800 tons less than what was produced last year, and 154,000 tons of sugar less when it was produced in 2019. With a production of 880,000 tons of sugar cane producing 78,000 tons of sugar, the industry is projected to earn $110 million, mostly in foreign exchange, representing a significant reduction of $53 million from $163.5 million generated in 2024. Based on the current cane price estimate, farmers are expected to earn no more than $65 per ton of cane this year. This represents a $25 per ton, a reduction of $25 per ton when compared to the $90.23 per ton that was paid out last year. Our farmers will take home $31 million less than they took home last year. Looking ahead, it is clear that fusarium will continue to spread and even become more severe, so much so that this may be the last crop for some of our cane farmers. Next year's sugarcane crop is projected to see another fall in production, and technicians at SCPC and CIRDI are predicting that production could end up being below 700,000 tons. We must therefore urgently make concrete and targeted interventions if we are to avoid this kind of devastation in the sugar industry, as we saw with the citrus greening that almost destroyed the citrus industry. With context, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, in 2007, Belize produced 8 million boxes of citrus, and last year it was down to under 400,000 boxes, and this year I think it's going to be between 500 and 600,000 boxes. Unfortunately, for the past 13 years, the previous government didn't do anything, and we can't repeat that mistake. Nothing was done to assist the farmers, to do research, to try to find how we can find other, try to get other types of citrus trees that could be more resistant to citrus greening. And because there was inaction by everyone, the government, the citrus growers, everybody, we find ourselves that we were at a high of 8 million boxes to right now approximately 500,000. And again, to put it within context, in 2007, in Costa Rica, their production was at 8 million boxes just like us. And today, Costa Rica is producing more than 12 million boxes because their government got into the industry, made monies available for research, made monies to help the farmers to be able to come into a replanting program to ensure that they can save the citrus industry. We cannot and we will not allow this to happen, what happened to the citrus industry in the north, south, to happen to our sugarcane farmers in the north. If we are to be successful at this interministerial collaboration that's taking place, it will be important to do some of the following interventions which we're starting off, which we have to start implementations immediately. One, $500,000 have already been identified by the Ministry of Agriculture, which will be allocated immediately to a pilot initiative to start ridding these vines of the disease, these fields of the disease. Last November, researchers at CIRDI moved quickly to identify a possible treatment option, and earlier this year began testing this technology on 2 on-farm research plots. The results of this treatment, at least in the initial stages, looks also very promising. We've also met with BSI ASR, and they have brought in their soil scientists from Florida, where they have had a lot of success in dealing with this, and they too have also a treatment for this fungus. And so they will be working with us, with the Ministry of Agriculture, because this is a joint effort to see what would be the best way to be able to halt the spread of this disease and to be able to cure some of the fields that have been infected. So with this $500,000 that the Ministry of Agriculture has identified, the plan is to replicate this treatment on a larger scale by working jointly with farmers to treat the first 2,500 acres. Through AICA's Hemispheric Fund for Climate Change disasters like this fungus, $100,000 has been approved for the testing of the native trichoderma, that's what it, trichoderma fungus. Trichoderma fungus. A fungus that is used to control the Fusarium fungus currently affecting sugarcane. This will be done using the University of Belize's laboratory and their scientists. It is believed that this treatment may be far more effective and far more economic than importing it from other countries. 3, through the World Bank's project, CRESAP, $2 million. Is this Belize or US? US dollars, yes. $2 million is being allocated to strengthen serious capacity to produce the trichoderma. Partnering with the private sector as well as international partners such as Brazil and or India, we will seek to obtain sugar varieties that are tolerant or resistant to Fusarium, to the Fusarium disease, and rapidly assess their performance under Belize's conditions. Both Brazil and India, for a large part, have similar climate conditions like Belize. 4, the 5 Cs, which is the Caribbean Climate Change Center, the Caribbean Center that's here in Belize, will also play a key role in fighting against the Fusarium to save the sugar industry. And efforts are already underway, making sure that the financing that they have available for the sugar industry, that with the results of the 2,500 acres we want to try, that once it's proven successful, that we could replicate it even faster to the rest of the fields that are affected. Mr. Speaker, at stake is the livelihood of 5,000 cane farmers and their families, harvest groups, and field workers, those who own and run sugarcane equipment, and the 400 plus BSI workers. We have to act to save the sugar industry in the north, as even the entire sugar industry. We have to act to protect the heavy investments made by ASR BSI in Belize, and to protect the $200,000 million of hard-earned foreign exchange currency that the sugar industry in the north and the west generates for Belize. For sure, Mr. Speaker, the start of our second term in Belize in office have seen its fair share of challenges. I was commenting to colleagues in Cabinet on Tuesday that since the March elections where our party has won with a convincing mandate that various challenges have come almost immediately. Internationally, the world is on the brink of another perilous war. In the Middle East, tensions continue to rise. In our own neighborhood, the instability caused by increasing crime and violence by gangs and gang-related activities continue to creep ever closer to our shores. Here at home, our Ministry of Agriculture is working tirelessly to manage the multiple crises from the screwworm to fusarium, and in the tourism sector, the sargassum, which keeps coming in ever increasing numbers. None of these are of our making, but we must deal with them, as we must deal with other challenges like hurricanes, floods, and yes, drought. Also, we continue to work with our unions to come to a fair and just resolution on the matter of their salary adjustment. I am assured that yesterday's meeting of the joint union negotiating team was cordial and positive. And I will have to take time out to thank the DPM and his team and the chairman. I think Minister Kenya was there. Mr. Florencio, as the Minister of Labor, was also there. I think Minister Fonseca and Minister Koi are both of the country. But they had a good meeting, cordial, tense at times, because both sides, are fighting to make, or they're working hard. One better rephrase the word fighting, but working hard to make their points. And I believe that at the end, they have come with something that can be supported by both the government and the unions. Our government, as we've been saying, Mr. Speaker, has once again offered a counter-proposal to the unions that is affordable, one that would get for our teachers and public officers the 8.5% increase in salaries and the increments over a reasonable time period. Mr. Speaker, we have never doubted that we will reach an amicable solution with the unions, because we have and will always continue to act in good faith. Just as we have no doubt that together we will manage the external and internal shocks that we face. This People's United Party government has not and will not and will never throw up our hands in the air when it comes to facing the difficult task that comes with governance. We will neither grieve nor weep. We will work, because that is what the Belizean people expect of us. And that is why they, the Belizean people, are standing with us. We promise to improve the lives of our people, all our people. We promise to work hard every day to deliver more jobs, better health care, to give our children a good education, and keep us safe from threats at home and abroad, and we're doing just that. It is hard work. It is challenging work. But we are facing those challenges together. And together, we are getting the job done. Belize is growing, and we are making the lives of our people better. When it comes to the sugar industry, Mr. Speaker, next week on Tuesday, we'll bring a cabinet paper that has been worked with all the cane farmers, the associations. In March of this year, just before the elections, I set up a small task force, of which I appointed senior economists from my office, Dr. Marcelino Avila, that have extensive experience in agriculture. And for context, Madam Leader of the Opposition, he worked with the Esquivel government, directly with Sir Manuel Esquivel when he was the Prime Minister the first time around. So he has a wealth of experience. He has worked in Mexico, he has worked in Africa, he has worked in the Caribbean and Central America. So I put him to lead a group. I met with him and the 4 associations, the chairpersons of the 4 associations, with the chairman of the Sugar Control Board. We had the Ministry of Agriculture represented. We had everyone under one room, and I said, here we have the Commission of Inquiry. I want us to be able to come up with a plan. I said, I don't want to hear no bickering, no fighting who forgive what or who not forgive what. This is about moving forward. And I said, so let's use this Commission of Inquiry, the findings, and come up with a plan on how we can rescue and move this industry forward. I am very pleased to tell you, to share with you, Mr. Speaker, and with my colleagues, that yesterday, Minister Mai, the honorable member from Orange Walk North and the honorable member from Toledo East and myself met with the entire team. And it was a good working meeting, and we met at the offices of the Progressive Cane Farmers Association. And we discussed the plan that they produced based on the Commission of Inquiry's findings. And so on Tuesday, I'll be meeting with the Cabinet and asking them for their support for us to be able to start to work immediately for the rescue of the sugar industry. And pretty soon, we will be doing the same for the citrus industry, because it's obvious that they need assistance from government, access to long-term cheap financing, and access to more to the different varieties of trees that we can do. We can be replanting. So I want to assure the members of this honorable House, yourself, Mr. Speaker, the Belizean people, that our government, that we are keeping on track, and that together we will work to ensure that we keep Belize moving forward always. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of bills.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I seek the indulgence of this honorable House to defer the first reading of the Broadcasting Bill 2025 to a later date. We're still working on the consultations, and I think we want to do a little bit more before we bring it to this honorable House.
Honorable members, the question is that the first reading of the Broadcasting Bill 2025 be deferred to a later date. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is the Gaming and Lotteries Control Bill 2025. I rise to introduce a bill for an act to repeal, replace, and consolidate the Gambling Prevention Act, Chapter 109 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020. The Computer Wagering Licensing Act, Chapter 149 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020. The Lotteries Control Act, Chapter 151 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, and the Gaming Control Act, Chapter 152 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, and to provide for matters they are connected with or incidental to. For an explanation, Mr. Speaker, what this piece of legislation is seeking is to merge the Gaming and Lotteries Commission Bill, the Gambling Prevention Act, the Gaming Control Act, the Computer Wagering Licensing Act, and the Lotteries Control Act. This amalgamation is urgently needed to get approval of the Gaming and Lotteries Commission Bill. In so doing, we will be legally establishing the Gaming and Lotteries Commission and allow the Investment Ministry to start assembling and developing the regulator with its own financial and human resources. This bill therefore recommends that all existing acts and statutory instruments relevant to gaming and lotteries to be combined into one act, to be called the Gaming and Lotteries Commission Act, the CLG Act. The primary relevant acts are, as I mentioned earlier, the Gambling Prevention Act, the Gaming Control Act, the Computer Wagering Act, Licensing Act, and the Lotteries Control Act. The GLCA will include provisions for the establishment, operations, and empowerment of a Gaming and Lotteries Commission as a statutory board under the laws of Belize with full powers to lead, direct, regulate, monitor, collect fees, and enforcement. The GLCA will also embrace responsible gaming as a guiding principle, including the recognition of the social ills that may arise from problem gaming. The new legislative framework will address the electronic, digital nature of gaming and lotteries played in Belize to minimize enforcement challenges, including the need to legislate all necessary and essential standards for gaming operations consistent with international standards. It includes all provisions necessary to minimize any possibility of using gaming for money laundering and for the financing of terrorism. The GLC Act will also contain provisions for meaningful fees, licenses, and penalties as appropriate to fund the regulation, training, enforcement, and other operations of the Gaming and Lotteries Commission. Passing this bill is a partial fulfillment of our ongoing efforts to modernize and regulate Belize's gaming and lotteries sector, a sector that has grown and it has grown exponentially. A good example, Mr. Speaker, is the Bolido, Fui Bolido. The way it was being managed with the previous government, they gave a contract to a special interest group, and they started out by paying $2 million. Then on the second term, after 10 years, they went on to pay $2.5 million, and they should have been paying GST, the business tax. And it seems that even the business tax they were not paying. What we have done, Mr. Speaker, we have ensured now that the Fui Bolido come directly under the control of the government of Belize for the people of Belize. And we have seen the results. In the first year of operations, we have earned more than $16 million. More than $16 million have been earned on behalf of the Belizean people. And going forward, as the economy continues to grow and more people are working, we see that the sale of Bolido will continue to increase, and that monies, the profits, can be plowed right back to assist the people of this country. So for decades, Mr. Speaker, gambling in Belize has evolved from informal games like Bolido and Pitipat to an industry. I mean, they play Pitipat the other day, it has evolved into an industry spanning unregulated electronic gaming machines in bars, restaurants, and even spaces targeted frequently visited by minors. This unchecked proliferation has left families vulnerable and revenues untapped, while criminalizing an activity that, if properly managed, could contribute meaningfully to our national development. The Gaming and Lotteries Control Bill before us today builds on that foundation laid by past initiatives such as the 2020 licensing of the Belize Government Lottery and the 1919 Gaming Control Bill, which first sought to impose licensing and zone frameworks. However, this new legislation goes further. This bill strengthens the regulatory framework. It establishes a unified gaming control board to oversee licensing, enforce zoning laws, and ensure operators comply with stringent tax obligations, and more importantly, protect both consumers and the public interest. This bill prioritizes social responsibility by ensuring that minors are prohibited access to gaming avenues, and more significantly, directing tax revenues towards education, sports, and cultural programs. This bill, Mr. Speaker, is not merely about control. It is about transforming a shadow economy into an accountable, revenue-generating asset. It balances economic opportunity with social protection, ensuring that all Belizeans benefit from an industry that has long operated at the margins. We look forward to the support of everyone for the approval of this bill, which has the recommendations of the Cabinet. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, that bill is referred to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to repeal, replace, and consolidate the Gambling Prevention Act, Chapter 109 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Rural Transformation, Community Development, Labor, and Local Government.
Mr. Speaker, this is the Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2025. I rise to introduce a bill for an act to establish the National Occupational Safety and Health Advisory Committee on the Occupational Safety and Health Inspectorate to provide for improved standards for occupational safety and health workers and other persons at work, to provide for duties and obligations of employers, workers, self-employed persons, manufacturers, suppliers, installers, inspectors, and other persons at work, to repeal the Factories Act, Chapter 296 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Mr. Speaker, I would like your permission to read from my notes and introductory information on it. Pleasant good morning, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, and fellow Belizeans. I rise today to introduce the Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2025, which is a landmark piece of legislation aimed at strengthening the protection of workers across Belize by establishing a modern, comprehensive, and enforceable legal framework for occupational safety and health. The introduction of this bill in this House today reflects not only the commitment of our workers and employers, but our nation's collective commitment to human dignity, fairness, and the value of labor. By strengthening and enforcing OSH policies, we are not only protecting workers, we are building a safer, healthier, and more productive society. Mr. Speaker, the current Factories Act, which this bill seeks to repeal, is outdated and limited in scope. Our workplaces have evolved significantly, and so too must our laws. This new OSH bill expands protections beyond factories to cover all workplaces and sectors, ensuring that every worker in Belize has the right to a safe and healthy working environment. The development of this bill, Mr. Speaker, has spanned more than a decade. With the Cabinet's renewed mandate in 2024 and continued technical support from the International Labour Organization, we finalized the draft bill through wide stakeholder consultations. This bill, Mr. Speaker, aligns with Belize's international commitments under ILO Conventions number 155 and 187 and supports the implementation of our Decent Work Country Program 2024-2029. One of the most significant features of this final draft of the OSH bill is the restructuring of the institutional framework for OSH governance. Initial proposals had recommended establishing a standalone occupational safety and health authority alongside a dedicated OSH inspectorate. However, based on guidance from the International Labour Organization and a careful review of Belize's national context, this model was reconsidered. The ILO advised that rather than creating a new statutory body, Belize should establish a national OSH advisory committee and a dedicated OSH inspectorate under the Ministry of Labour. This recommendation was based on several key factors. First, it promotes administrative efficiency and long-term institutional sustainability by leveraging existing structures within the Labour Department, thereby avoiding role duplication and ensuring cost-effective implementation. Second, it facilitates better integration and coordination within the wider Labour administration system, critical for effective compliance and enforcement. However, for the model to be successful, it was emphasized that it must be adequately resourced. This includes recruitment, specialized training, and targeted capacity building to empower inspectors and staff to fulfill their roles and responsibilities. As Belize's economy evolves and our workforce grows, the OSH Inspectorate may still become a separate statutory body in the future. This model allows for growth and transition as time goes by. The establishment of the National OSH Advisory Committee is aligned with ILO Convention number 187 and will serve as a cornerstone for continuous social dialogue. It will bring together representatives from the government, employers, and workers to jointly assess national OSH priorities. It will provide regulatory advice and submit technical recommendations to the Ministry on matters of occupational safety and health. The adoption of this integrated institutional model, which includes both the National OSH Advisory Committee and an OSH Inspectorate under the Ministry of Labour, benefits from an approach that balances efficiency with inclusivity. It eliminates the need for new agencies, promotes coherence across the Labour administration system, and fosters shared accountability through tripartite engagement. Most importantly, it offers a practical and adaptable solution aligned with Belize's resource realities and international best practices, particularly those recommended for small states. Mr. Speaker, this bill includes strong and enforceable provisions that clearly define the duties of employers, workers, designers, suppliers, and property owners. It incorporates protections for whistleblowers and prohibits retaliation against those who report unsafe conditions. It mandates the notification and investigation of workplace accidents, incidents, and occupational diseases. It also requires the establishment of workplace safety committees and the appointment of worker representatives, while addressing both physical and psychosocial hazards, including mental health risks, particularly relevant today. The bill empowers the authorities to issue improvement and prohibition notices, impose administrative penalties, and provide for legal appeals. Initial implementation of the bill will be supported through the Ministry's budget with technical support from the ILO. Mr. Speaker, this bill is not just a legal reform. It is a human rights issue, a labor issue, and a development issue. It reflects this government's commitment to decent work, public health, and sustainable economic growth. This submission, Mr. Speaker, is a nation taking a bold and necessary step on behalf of every hardworking Belizean, Mr. Speaker. This bill will be a game changer for the country, for all our workers, our employers. Mr. Speaker, this bill didn't arrive by itself or just by myself. This bill, for over a decade, has been in the workings. And we have a saying up north. Maybe my friend from Kaya West might know it. I don't know if in West they have it. But they say, la mejor manera de decirlo es hacerlo. It means the best way to say it is to do it. That's Plan Belize, Mr. Speaker. That is this cabinet under the leadership of our Prime Minister. This was a whole team effort. My predecessor, Minister Rekenia, did a lot of hard work, a lot of heavy lifting to bring this. The team at the Ministry of Rural Transformation did a lot of hard work. We want to thank the ILO for helping us, the employers, the employees. This was a team effort, Mr. Speaker. It did not arrive here by itself. It is timely for this country. Our country needs it. So thank you very much for allowing me to present this bill, Mr. Speaker, and it will be going to committee after this. Thank you.
Honorable members, that bill is referred to the Public Service, Labor, Industry, and Trade Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to establish the National Occupational and Safety and Health Advisory Committee and the Occupational Safety and Health Inspectorate.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education, Science, and Technology.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pleasant good morning, Mr. Speaker, and to all our colleagues who are present here this morning. Mr. Speaker, this is the School Teachers Pension Bill 2025. I rise to introduce a bill for an act to amend the School Teachers Pension Act, Chapter 42 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to give effect to the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement between the Public Service Union of Belize, the Belize National Teachers Union, the Association of Public Service Senior Managers, and the Government of Belize 2021-24 by clarifying that for the purpose of calculating pension for teachers in government-aided schools, salary refers to the percentage of salary covered by grant in aid as established under the Education Act, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Mr. Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of Cabinet. Mr. Speaker, if you kindly allow me to say a few words on the proposed amendment that is before us. And if you, with your indulgence, I'd like to refer to my notes. Mr. Speaker, I want to start off by recognizing and thanking the joint negotiating team that was led by the Honorable Member from Lake Independence, so a Deputy Prime Minister. Of course, supported by the Honorable Member from Freetong, the Honorable Member from Fort George, and of course, the Honorable Senator Chris Coy, along with the unions who worked very diligently, from early at the beginning of our government term in 2020 to advance this process. And it is important to also recognize and to thank the union leaders who were engaged in this process. And allow me to say, Mr. Speaker, that this process was something that dates back to 2008. And we had 13 years of the UDP government. 13 years. And this was something on the table. And in as much as they talked and promised and made commitments, they did not see it necessary to advance this process. They spent 13 years, left government, and never moved this process forward. It took a People's United Party government led by our Prime Minister, the Honorable John Briceño, and our joint negotiating team to advance and to ensure that not only did we advance, but that there was an agreement signed for Proposal 22 to support all our teachers and auxiliary staff across all our secondary and tertiary level institutions across this country. This is a government that means business. This is a government that respects, values, and is committed to our teachers and the education process, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in response to the mandate received from their respective memberships, which was to engage in negotiations with the government of Belize for a cost of living adjustment and improved benefits package aimed at enhancing efficiency, productivity, and working conditions, the Public Service Union, the BNTU, and the Association of Public Service Senior Managers submitted a collective bargaining agreement to the government of Belize on December 1st, 2008. This CBA, communally drafted by the union's joint negotiating team, encompassed 24 proposals designed for implementation over 2009 to 2012. These proposals covered a range of matters, including amendments to legislation, enhanced compensation, implementation of service benefits frameworks, incentives for improved work ethics and performance, system upgrades, modernization of services, and the improvement of working conditions. Several proposals recognized and required the direct response of particular government ministries. Proposal 22 identified and necessitated the immediate response of the Ministry of Education. Proposal 22, a four-part special proposal assembled by the BNTU, analyzed allowances and grants offered to teachers and administrators of primary schools in conjunction with the 30% increase in the cost of living. The motion to increase, expand, and restructure allowance and grant remunerations was inevitable. The BNTU's negotiations appealed for coverage expansion so that secondary and tertiary level teachers and administrators could access those allowances and grants. increase in responsibility administrative allowances by 60%, which varies based on school enrollment. The increase in commuting allowance by 33%, 25% and 20% based on mileage categories, and the increase in rural hardship allowance maximum by 100% became necessary to maintain a fair and balanced lifestyle in relation to supply and demand. And that is, of course, according to the June 2008. The Ministry of Education agreed to increase each allowance by the percentages quoted in Proposal 22, Circular Number 10 of 2013, which came into effect on April 1st, 2013, responded to the increases in allowances for teachers and implemented the teacher training subsidy, a one-time grant for the duration of an approved program of study for teachers engaged in full and part-time study leave, with grant payments of $500 for associate degree programs and $1,000 for bachelor's degree programs. The inclusion of secondary and tertiary level teachers and administrators to receive allowances remain in discussion. Subsection 1 of Proposal 22 proposed that the Ministry of Education and the government pays the full 100% salaries and service benefits of all grant-aided secondary and tertiary level educational institutions in Belize. This full salary payment would offer all qualifying approved teaching staff, teachers and administrators full 100 pensions and service benefits for all staff, whether teaching or non-teaching, would be honored. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that the Ministry of Education and the government currently pays a salary grant of 70%, and that is what moving it now to 100% as proposed in Proposal 22. Mr. Speaker, I just want to share with you a couple figures in terms of the budgetary allocations that this proposal has to consider. For 2024, the estimated 70% salary grant stood at $30,911,657.69. The 30% additional salaries and service benefits increased that by $13,247,853.30. The projected allowance for secondary school teachers is $790,300, bringing it to a total expenditure for 2024 to $44,949,810.99. For the fiscal year 2025, we're looking at an approximate $41,990,348.64. And all moving upwards to 2028, which would increase the expenditures to an overall $45,928,917.77. Mr. Speaker, why am I referring to these figures? Because it is important that the Belizean people understand and appreciate that we are trying our utmost best as the government to provide support to our teachers and our administrative staff. We understand and recognize and we value our teachers and we value the work that they do. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, this government is giving the necessary support to this process. Mr. Speaker, in wrapping up, I just want to say that currently, as the nation is aware, we are engaged in negotiations with the BNTU, the PSU, and the Association of Senior Public Servants. This is a process that is very important because as a government, we recognize that it is important that we look at the whole cost of living adjustment and see how best we can engage and work with our teachers and our public servants. Mr. Speaker, our government, led by the Honorable John Briceño, is committed to ensuring that we work with all Belizeans and that together, Mr. Speaker, we work diligently to build a better Belize for all. Mr. Speaker, I ask that when the time comes for the debate, that both sides of the House support this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, that bill is referred to the Education, Sports and Housing Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
For an act to amend the School Teachers Pension Act, Chapter 42 of the Substantive Laws of the Lease, Revised Edition 2020. Motions relating to the business or sittings of the House.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that at the rising today, the House adjourn to a date to be fixed by the Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that the House at this rising today adjourn to a date to be fixed by the Speaker. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Government business motions.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I seek the indulgence of this Honorable House to defer the introduction of this motion to a later date.
Honorable members, the question is that the introduction of the Central American Bank for Economic Integration subscription motion 2025 be deferred to a later date. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is the resolution to support the democratic Taiwan and strengthen bilateral bond motion 2025. Mr. Speaker, I move whereas Belize and Taiwan enjoy a strong, healthy democratic bond deeply rooted in mutual respect and share the common values of democracy, freedom, and human rights. And whereas throughout the 36 years of friendship and alliance, Belize and Taiwan have continuously supported and helped each other and closely cooperated in areas of mutual interest. And whereas all bilateral cooperation projects between Belize and Taiwan, including hospital and road construction, renovation of the National Assembly building, urban resilience and disaster prevention, metabolic chronic disease prevention, women's empowerment, Mandarin teaching, and scholarship programs are currently proceeding smoothly. And whereas with Taiwan's assistance, 50 starter homes were completed and handed over in May 2025, and shrimp from Belize will soon be exported to Taiwan, showcasing the strength and depth of the multifaceted partnership between the two nations. And whereas Taiwan is not only a faithful ally and development partner of Belize, but also an active contributor to addressing pressing global challenges, making it an indispensable member of the global community. And whereas the People's Republic of China, PRC, has deliberately misused the UNGA Resolution 2758 to assert false claims of sovereignty over Taiwan, to isolate Taiwan from the international community, and obstruct Taiwan's participation in the UN system and other multilateral fora, which stand to benefit greatly from Belize's expertise and experiences. And whereas Belize, as a steadfast ally, stands shoulder to shoulder with Taiwan in safeguarding its sovereignty, democracy, freedom, and the right to self-determination of the Taiwanese people when Taiwan faces the ever-growing military, political, and economic coercion and hegemonic threats from the PRC. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Honorable House extends its commitment to the strong and healthy diplomatic bond between Belize and Taiwan, and reaffirms its commitment to stand with the people and government of Taiwan in solidarity to oppose PRC's coercive actions and undermine Taiwan's sovereign integrity, democracy, and freedom. Calls upon the international community to reject PRC's distortion of the UNGA Resolution 2758 and its efforts to block Taiwan's inclusion in the international system. Express its full support of Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, and the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the office of the Prime Minister as a tangible token of the friendship expressed therein. Mr. Speaker, this resolution reiterates our strong and enduring friendship and commitment to stand with the people and government of Taiwan in defense of democracy, sovereignty, and human dignity. 36 years ago, when our two countries established democratic relations, since then it has grown into a strong friendship between our countries based on mutual respect, shared democratic values, and our devoted principles to freedom and human rights. Taiwan has been more than an ally to Belize. The Taiwanese government and people have walked side by side with us as we work to develop our infrastructure, strengthen our educational pillars, and develop our strong social empowerment initiatives. Our collaboration spans vital areas such as constructions of hospitals and roads, women's empowerment projects, scholarships for our youth, the renovation of our National Assembly building, assisting with disaster prevention programs, and the improvement of our public health system. I am proud to announce that in May 2025, with the assistance of our Taiwanese friends, this government handed over 50 starter homes, a commitment we made to uplift the lives of the Belizean people. We are proud to announce that Belize will soon be exporting shrimp to Taiwan, a new chapter in our economic partnership. In addition to these bilateral achievements, I must highlight Belize's ROC Economic Cooperation Agreement, the ECA, that came into force in 2022. It serves as a vital framework to expand trade, investment, and increase technical cooperation between our countries. It grants Belizean exports greater access to Taiwanese markets, while at the same time it allows for Taiwanese expertise to continue supporting our socio-economic transformation efforts. For sure, we cannot deny, if given the opportunity, Taiwan's experience and capabilities would be of great help to many countries of the world. They are a model of global cooperation and responsible governance. Unfortunately, Taiwan continues to face relentless pressure and coercion from its larger neighbor. The UNGA Resolution 2058 did not resolve the issue of Taiwan's representation, nor did it not assign sovereignty to the PRC. What it has done to do is to enable the exclusion of Taiwan from participating in the global community. With adoption of this resolution, we in this honorable House and on behalf of the Belizean people are sending a strong message to the world, indicating that Belize stands shoulder to shoulder with its friends. It is reconfirming that we oppose any effort to undermine Taiwan's democratic identity, its territorial integrity, and the right of the more than 23 million people to self-determination. We will continue to advocate for Taiwan's participation in the work of the international organizations. Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate, this resolution is more than symbolic. It's a declaration of values. With that said, I invite all members of this House to join me in supporting this resolution as a sign of our strong friendship with the people and government of the Republic of China, Taiwan. Mr. Speaker, I recommend that the resolution be forwarded to President Lai Ching-te and the people of Taiwan as a sign of our strong friendship and shared vision. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise, Mr. Speaker, to lend my full support and the opposition's unequivocal support for this motion that seeks to reaffirm Belize's enduring friendship, partnership, and diplomatic bond with the Republic of China, Taiwan. We have long stood in solidarity with Taiwan and in Taiwan's pursuit for peace, democracy, self-determination, and most importantly, global recognition. Values we share and continue to share today. Belize and Taiwan are not just bounded by our diplomacy, our treaties, and our trade arrangements, but by the respect, a profound respect between our governments and people, a respect for freedom of expression, rule of law, human rights, and sovereignty. These shared values, Mr. Speaker, are the bedrock of our 36-year relationship, one built on consistency and mutual development, and of course, based on trust. Mr. Speaker, the opposition condemns and joins the call to reject the misuse of the UNGA Resolution 2758 by the People's Republic of China as a tool of exclusion. Taiwan is a vibrant democracy and a responsible global actor who deserves full and fair participation in international organizations such as the UN, WHO, ICAO, UNFCCC, and Interpol. We denounce the coercive tactics used to silence the voices of the people of Taiwan and erase their identity on the world stage. Let it be stated for the record, Mr. Speaker, this relationship with Taiwan is not new. As we said, it's based on a friendship of 36 years. Nor is it the result of any single administration. The United Democratic Party proudly affirms that it has been an integral architect and a defender of this bond throughout our time in government. This resolution and this motion reaffirms a long-standing bipartisan commitment to Taiwan, and Belize remains resolute and principled in that regard. The opposition, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister, our guests in the gallery, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Taiwan, and her attaché. The opposition extends our heartfelt solidarity to President Lee Ching-te and to the government and people of Taiwan. Belize stands with Taiwan in democracy and friendship, and in a hope for a more inclusive community. Mr. Speaker, let this honorable House send a clear message that small states can lead with courage and that Belize will not be bullied into abandoning its values or its allies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Orange Walk East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of this resolution, one that not only affirms Belize's enduring friendship with the Republic of China, Taiwan, but also reflects the kind of principled and productive partnership that we as a nation should emulate in all our dealings, both internationally and here at home. As Minister of Health and Wellness, I want to underscore how Taiwan's support for Belize has been both consistent and impactful, particularly in the health sector, where collaboration has translated into better services, stronger infrastructure, and a healthier population. Taiwan's support in metabolic chronic disease prevention, public health training, women's health, and hospital renovation has helped us deliver on our constitutional duty to protect the health of our citizens. These projects, Mr. Speaker, like the National Assembly building renovation or hospital improvements, are not just symbols of friendship, but testaments to what is possible when dialogue, mutual respect, and shared values drive development. Mr. Speaker, we are well aware of the challenges currently confronting us with our union partners, and I want to make it absolutely clear: this government respects the role of unions and values the workers who keep our systems running, especially in health. But let us take a lesson from our relationship with Taiwan. It is built not on coercion or ultimatums, but on dialogue, shared goals, and long-term vision. Our ministry continues to prioritize health workers' welfare, service delivery, and reform. We're investing in digital transformation, infrastructure, and access to care, not in reaction to pressure, but because we believe that health must always come first. This resolution not only defends Taiwan's sovereign integrity and its right to self-determination, it also affirms a moral truth that small nations must stand together in defense of peace, fairness, and inclusion in the international system. This resolution also reminds us that Belize stands firm with those who stand for democracy and the well-being of their people. That is why we stand with Taiwan, and it is also why we are committed to constructive engagement with all our domestic partners, including the unions. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I lend my full voice and vote in favor of this resolution, not just as a cabinet minister, but as a proud Belizean who believes that solidarity, not coercion, should guide our international partnerships. Let us continue building partnership whether with global allies like Taiwan or with our very own workers, rooted in mutual respect and not division. I fully support this resolution.
I recognize the member from Orange Walk Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I also want to take the opportunity to recognize Ambassador Lily Lee Wen-Su. Good morning, Ambassador. And also Jimmy. Good morning, Jimmy. Both from the Embassy of Taiwan. Thank you for being here with us this morning. And Mr. Speaker, I seek the indulgence of this Honorable House to have this motion taken through all its stages this day.
Honorable members, the question is that this motion be taken through all its stages this day. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. Honorable members, that motion is referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that this motion be taken through all its stages this day. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. All those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. Honorable members, it has been agreed that the resolution to support democratic Taiwan and strengthen bilateral bond motion 2025 be passed this day. As you are all aware, under Standing Order number 74, all proposed legislation, messages, petitions, and motions and other matters relating to the subject mentioned under the title of each standing committee shall be referred to the host, to such committee for examination, consideration, and report to the host. The way for this to be done, other than by suspension of the standing order, is for me to suspend the sitting to enable the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee to examine, consider, and report to the host on this motion. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. The sitting is therefore suspended until the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee has concluded this business.
there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves, there's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared are in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on. Sometimes there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves, there's no one I can turn to. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Presentation of report from Select Committee.
I recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay on the table sessional paper number HR 16/1/14, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the resolution to support democratic Taiwan and strengthen bilateral bond motion 2025. Thank you.
Honorable members, that report is ordered to lie on the table.
Public business, government business motion.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission not to repeat the recitals, I move now, therefore, be it resolved that this Honorable House extends its commitment to the strong and healthy diplomatic bond between Belize and Taiwan, and reaffirms its commitment to stand with the people and government of Taiwan in solidarity to oppose PRC's coercive actions that undermine Taiwan's sovereignty, sovereign integrity, democracy, and freedom. Calls upon the international community to reject PRC's distortion of UNGA Resolution 2758 and its efforts to block Taiwan's inclusion in the international system. Expresses its full support of Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the International Criminal Police Organization. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the Office of the Prime Minister as a tangible token of the friendship expressed herein. Thanks.
Honorable members, the question is, now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House extends its commitment to the strong and healthy diplomatic bond between Belize and Taiwan, and reaffirms its commitment to stand with the people and government of Taiwan in solidarity to oppose PRC's coercive actions that undermine Taiwan's sovereign integrity, democracy, and freedom. Call upon the international community to reject PRC's distortion of UNGA Resolution 2758 and its effort to block Taiwan's inclusion in the international system. Express its full support of Taiwan's participation in all related international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the International Criminal Police Organization. Be it therefore resolved, a copy of this resolution be presented to President Lai Ching-te of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and to the Office of the Prime Minister as a tangible token of the friendship expressed herein. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bills for second reading.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is the Central Bank of Belize Amendment Bill 2025. I move the second reading of a bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Belize Act Chapter 262 of the Substantive Laws of Belize Revised Edition 2020 to provide for the Director General of the Financial Services Commission to be a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Belize and to provide for matters connected herewith or incidental to. Mr. Speaker, at the introduction, I went through a lengthy explanation of what we're doing, but in short, basically what we are doing is amending the legislation so that in the Board of Directors, the Director General of the Financial Services Commission could also be an official member of the board. As we speak, the Central Bank Governor sits on the Financial Commission's board of directors, and so now we just want both of them to be able to sit in one another's in the Central Bank and also in the Financial Services Commission, and I urge the support from everyone.
I recognize the member from Albert.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the Central Bank Amendment Bill 2025. And I do so with a deep sense of responsibility to protect the independence, integrity, and sound governance of our financial system. The amendment seems simple enough to insert the Director General of the FSC, the Financial Services Commission, onto the Central Bank Board. This raises some concerns about the erosion of the central bank's independence, something that has long worked to preserve the interests of our financial stability. The Financial Services Commission and the Central Bank are two distinct regulators with differing mandates. Merging oversight functions by cross-representation creates and potentially can create unnecessary conflicts, especially when the FSC oversees institutions that may from time to time require central bank intervention. If we continue down this path, Mr. Speaker, we risk politicizing key regulatory institutions that should operate above partisan and ministerial influence. Coordination between the Central Bank and the Financial Services Commission can be achieved through MOUs, interagency working groups, or joint task force, not by altering the Central Bank's board's composition. Mr. Speaker, I urge this House and the Honorable Prime Minister to proceed cautiously with this amendment. What is foundational in the principles of our economy is that good governance demands consultation, caution, but above all else, independence of our regulatory institutions. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, we on this side find it very difficult to support the amendment in this current form, and we urge others to consider the long-term consequences of this overreach. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Orange Walk Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the leader of the opposition with her intervention, and I appreciate her calling out caution in ensuring that both in the bodies can remain independent and both of them can function independently of each other. But as I pointed out in my in the introduction of the bill, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the governor of the central bank already sits in the Financial Services Commission. There are a lot of interlapping work that they do, and she's right with the investigations that sometimes the FSC does investigation in certain institutions that the central bank monitors, but likewise the central bank does the same that the FSC monitors. So in effect, what we're doing is that by having each of them sitting in both of the in both the central bank board and in the Financial Services Board, it allows both of them to know what each is doing and how they can support one another. Basically, the work from both of them is to ensure that we have a financially sound, a sound financial system, and at the same time, but one that is free from the drug trafficking, the hiding of illicit monies, funding of terrorism. So both of them, whilst they have different functions, they want to achieve the same goal. So I just want to assure the honourable member from Albert, the leader of the opposition, that there's no such thing that could happen, specifically because there's only one member on each board, so one can't go in and overrule the others board because they have a whole slew of members on the board. So again, I urge the support for everyone for this amendment. Thanks.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Belize Act, Chapter 262 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to provide for the Director General of the Financial Service Commission to be a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Belize and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto be removed a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Belize Act, Chapter 262 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Member, Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, this is the Bail Bill 2025. I move the second reading of a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Bail Reform Act, Chapter 100 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to reform the bail framework in the criminal justice system and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Just as a very short backdrop, you may recall on the last occasion the member for Freetown introduced this Bail Bill 2025, which essentially, Mr. Speaker, is aimed at modernizing and consolidating the bail framework in Belize. Currently, bail is set across several different bills, including the Bail Reform Act, the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act, the Police Act, Indictable Procedure Act, Inferior Courts Act, and the Senior Courts Act. And because of this dispersion, many times it creates a very confusing situation for practitioners and judicial officers alike. And so there was a need for us to not just modernize but consolidate the provisions as it relates to bail across the judicial systems in Belize. This will no doubt ensure clarity and accessibility in the laws governing bail. It will provide uniform guidance for judicial officers, police, and other stakeholders. It will improve judicial efficiency and harmonize all bail-related provisions. So this is the second reading of this bill, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first want to thank the Attorney General's Ministry for making available to the committee a copy of the white paper that informed the details of this bill. I think it is the standard that should be established and kept, especially for those of us who do not have access to any other rationale for why a bill is being amended. Mr. Speaker, while this bill sets out to modernize our system of bail, which we applaud, and addresses concerns about public safety, it also raises profound questions about fairness, equity, and access to justice, especially for those who live on the margins of our society. The bill codifies the bail procedures clearly and consolidates laws under one act. It incorporates modern tools like electronic monitoring and curfews, and it ensures stronger protection for victims and public safety during the bail process. But here are a few concerns that we feel on this side are important to highlight. The cost or the burden for the poor and underprivileged. So in clause reference 5.2 and Schedule 1, Mr. Speaker, Schedule 1 of the bill lists 15 offenses, including some minor immigration infractions, road traffic harm, and firearm-related technical offenses for which bail can only be granted by a judge. The issue is that judges are not regularly present in most rural jurisdictions. A young person in PG, Independence, Valley of Peace, may wait for weeks for a bail hearing, not because of the severity of the offense, but because of geography and poverty. Justice, as we know, that is delayed is justice denied, especially when you are a poor rural youth without access to legal help or transportation. There is also the issue of the expanded role of the police in bail decisions, a danger, in my view, of accountability and discretion. Clause reference section 5.2a, Roman numeral 2. The bill, and I quote, the bill allows commissioned police officers, not judicial officers, to decide bail in many cases punishable by summary conviction, end of quote. Let's look at our youths on the south side, Belize City, who are profiled or detained based on reputation rather than evidence and are especially vulnerable to this reference. Without safeguards, which we believe should be put in place, police discretion may be applied unequally, especially in crime hotspots in the South Side divisions that we on this side represent. Mesop, Collet, Port Loyola, Lake Independence, and in some instances, Albert. Do we really believe, Mr. Speaker, that the same officers doing the arrests should be deciding on who gets to go home? That is not justice, Mr. Speaker. That is simply dangerous. And then there's the high bail amounts and stringent surety requirements. Lockout for the poor. Clause reference sections 14 and 15. Excessive bail shall not be required, the bill says. Yet no upper threshold or fairness test is included. A mother on the south side earning minimum wage cannot produce land papers or a qualified surety. The list of exempt persons, as seen in Schedule 4, excludes most civil society leaders and community activists, those most willing to help and to vouch for the young men in our communities. We must ask for a youth from Jane Usher or in Hattieville, who will stand the surety? When family can't, and community is blocked in this law, in this amendment to the law. And then, of course, there is the electronic monitoring and travel restrictions, penalizing the digitally disconnected. Clause reference section 7(3)(c). And I quote, the bill introduces electronic tracking for bail recipients. But where is the infrastructure in Toledo or Corozal or even in Belize City? Southside youth will face delayed release or denial of bail altogether if these devices are not available. Rural defendants may be excluded from bail options not because of flight of risk, but because of limited technology access. Are we saying you only deserve bail if you live where government services can reach you? Is that what we are saying to the Belizean people? And finally, there are heavy penalties from us for absconding. No provisions for transportation, illness, or emergencies. Clause we reference here is section 12. Failure to appear can carry up to 7 years in prison, even if your reason is poverty, illness, or lack of transport. A youth from the south side who misses court due to a flooded yard or no bus fare could face prison time longer than the offense itself. Mr. Speaker, this is oppression disguised as an order. This bill will deepen, in our view, the divide between those who can afford justice and those who cannot. Let us not write laws that work only for certain communities or certain families who live in certain income bracket levels, but fail our children who come from impoverished situations. We support bail reform, just to be abundantly clear, but we don't support it on the backs of the most vulnerable, Mr. Speaker. Let us attend to this bill to reflect equity, access, and justice for the most marginalized. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the Opposition for her remarks in this debate with respect to the bail bill. I want to join the Leader of the Opposition in acknowledging the efforts of our Attorney General in sharing the bail bill in advance and the white paper, the policy, and no doubt for all of the very progressive pieces of legislation, 2 others to come after this particular bill, being the law revision and the other one with relation to the House rules. Mr. Speaker, it's a funny thing because I never thought I'd say the words I miss Shine Barrow, because even though he was known for his very short fuse and hot temper, he's also well known for acknowledging the efforts of our administration in modernizing these bills that are so outdated, that are so disconnected and fragmented, and that can be found across several pieces of legislation, like I said earlier, causing confusion for many judicial officers, including practitioners and judges. I heard the Leader of the Opposition say that this is going to deny access to the most marginalized. And I think it's a very poor attempt, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, to try to politicize and grandstand what many have acknowledged as an extremely progressive piece of legislation. And the portion of the legislation that my friend, the leader of the opposition, points to is the fact that now bail can only be offered for summary offenses by police officers. I don't know if the leader did not read the provisions properly, but while you're at a police station for a summary offense, which normally if you're picked up today, on a Friday like today, it's not until Monday morning that you'll get bail, you know. No police officer is offering any bail right now, but under this act they will. And not just police officers, and that's why I say I don't know if it is a disingenuous move on the part of the leader to try to grandstand, because judicial officer also refers to justices of the peace. So is the leader of the opposition trying to say that we cannot trust justices of the peace either, because they can offer bail under this act? And so I take great offense on behalf of the Attorney General's ministry, who is actually providing here in this new legislation an avenue for, yes, those very said marginalized youth that the leader refers to get bail on a Friday evening, whether it's from a police officer or whether it's from a justice of the peace. And yes, for the more serious offenses, nothing changes. You have to get an attorney at law. You have to go to the High Court for bail, including now serious traffic offenses. But we don't hear the leader talking about that. Something that has become so prevalent in our country, that individuals are getting away scotch-free when they commit manslaughter on our highways. Those individuals must now go to the High Court for bail. We have to acknowledge that our highways and our streets are becoming more and more dangerous each day. Drivers are reckless, and that's not an issue of at-risk youth, the way the leader of the opposition is trying to portend this thing. That is an issue of everyday drivers. Whether you have money or you do not, reckless driving exists. And so yes, that is added in as one of the new offenses that you have to get bail. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Attorney General's ministry and this government for presenting a consolidated, progressive, modernized bail act that we have here today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Bail Reform Act, Chapter 100 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Division 2020, to reform the bail framework in the criminal justice system and to provide for matters connected therein or incidental thereto, to read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Bail Reform Act, Chapter 100 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and New Boat Industries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the Law Revision and Law Reform Bill 2025. I move the second reading of a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Law Revision Act, Chapter 3 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to modernize the system of revising, consolidating, and editing the laws of Belize, to establish an official Law Reform Commission to allow for the laws of Belize to be reviewed and reformed on a systematic basis, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the member from Kaya North.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the Law Revision and Law Reform Bill 2025, which really seeks to repeal and replace the current Law Revision Act. This bill, Mr. Speaker, attests to the significant steps that are being taken really to manage and modernize our laws, and it has two aims, principally. The first really is to update the way we revise and consolidate the laws of Belize, and secondly, it is to establish a law reform commission that will keep our legal framework under regular review. Mr. Speaker, the current Law Revision Act was enacted in 1979, and while that laid the groundwork for consolidating and publishing our laws, the fact is that our legal system has had to respond to the rapid changes of social, technological, and policy demands, and the current framework is no longer adequate, Mr. Speaker. Since 2021, Belize has passed an average of over 41 acts per year, with projections showing that number will continue to rise. This far exceeds the previous high of 32 acts that were passed annually between 2015 and 2020. As a result, Mr. Speaker, we need a more modern, comprehensive way of dealing with law reform. What we will see by the passing of this bill is we are going to be witnessing the appointment of a law revision commissioner with legal drafting experience to oversee consolidation and updating of laws. We will see the creation and maintenance of electronic databases for current laws, repeal and omitted laws, revised editions, and more. We will also have regular reporting and formal certification of revised editions to ensure accuracy and official status of legislations. Mr. Speaker, by the appointment of a law reform commission, this commission is intended to have people with judicial, academic, and professional legal experience. This commission will prepare annual reform programs and submit yearly reports to the Attorney General and to Parliament, and it will also conduct consultation on reform proposals and give expert advice to government ministries. The idea behind this bill is to bring order, consistency, and clarity to Belize's growing body of legislation. It will strengthen the rules of law by making laws more accessible, transparent, and up-to-date. And it will also introduce a systemic, consultative approach to legal reform, moving away from piecemeal amendments. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and I ask all the members of this House to support this bill as well. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, just in wrapping up the second reading of this bill, I want to express our gratitude again to the Attorney General's Ministry for this much needed law revision and law reform bill. As the member for Kaya North mentioned, this act is going to present to us a law reform commission that will meet periodically laws and to ensure that we are not coming to this honorable house in a piecemeal fashion, but rather to ensure that at all times we are on the same page and that all the laws are actually moving together in a coherent fashion. And so we support this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Law Revision Act, Chapter 3 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to modernize the system of revising, consolidating, and editing the laws of Belize, to establish an official law reform commission to allow for the laws of Belize to be reviewed and reformed on a systematic basis, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto be read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Law Revision Act, Chapter 3 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the National Assembly Powers, Privileges and Immunities Bill 2025. I move the second reading of a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Legislative Assembly Powers and Privileges Act to declare and define certain powers, privileges and immunities of the National Assembly and of the members and officers of such assembly, to secure freedom of speech in the National Assembly, to regulate admittance to the precincts of the National Assembly, to give protection to the persons employed in the publication of the reports and other papers of the National Assembly, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the member from Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleagues who sit in the Standing Committee for Constitutional Matters. We had a long discussion, 2 meetings, to look at several amendments to this bill, the Privileges, Powers and Immunities Bill. And I note that many of the changes, many of the recommendations that came from visitors to the to the committees were taken into account in terms of improvement to what was originally presented. I want to acknowledge that this bill brings the Parliament into the modern era. It has been a while, Mr. Speaker, I think about 1962, since this very important piece of legislation has been reviewed. And it brings Parliament into the modern era by allowing documents to be shared electronically and summons to be served by email or posted online. It helps us to operate more efficiently and transparently. It strengthens, for sure, the protection of those involved in parliamentary work. Members, staff, even witnesses are better shielded from unfair legal attacks when carrying out their duties. And it reaffirms the right to legal representation of witnesses. I think, and my colleagues on this side believe, that this is a step forward for fairness and accountability. There is one matter, though, that I'm not sure was taken into account, and I believe it's important for me to mention here. The Speaker or a committee chair can order a warrant for someone's arrest if they don't respond to a summons without needing a judge's approval. I think this has to be a dangerous step away from due process and the rule of law. When we call members to a committee meeting, or when we call witnesses to a committee meeting, or for any matters where privileges ought to be extended, we must always take into account that every member has the right to enjoy the rule of law and due process. And then there is this issue about sharing of public information and jail time if public information is leaked. I think it might be helpful for us to find a way to formally declare what is public information that enjoys that kind of privilege. Because the work of government, the work of Parliament, is for the people. And where there are some issues that might be sensitive, or like we're talking about national security issues, but there are other issues that I believe that the people have a right to know. The bill makes it a criminal offense to publish or share parliamentary documents unless it is quote-unquote authorized. People could be fined or jailed just for posting something online. I believe, and we believe, that is a threat to our freedom of expression, and it risks silencing journalists, educators, and citizens. We all want a stronger parliament, but power must come with responsibility, and authority must be balanced with accountability. We support this bill. We applaud that a step has now been taken, 40 years later, 50 years later, to amend the bill. But ask for these 2 points to be taken into consideration. Mr. Speaker, let us work together to protect our democracy, not just the people in charge of it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Cayo South.
Just a short intervention, Mr. Speaker. I must commend the committee members. It's been a while since we have been able to get along, but we have in this committee. The working relationship has been positive. The input from the opposition members and the members of government have been positive. The input from the larger society was taken into consideration. We looked at many issues and they were implemented. These two are points that we can look at again and hopefully come to an agreement that is in benefit of our country, of our democratic system and of Parliament. I must commend the Speaker for putting in a lot of work and behind the scenes getting this to where it is right now. It is a step forward. There is much more to do. We have to bring our Parliament to a level that I would say we have to Belizeanize our parliamentary system a little bit more. But it's a great step we have taken, and I would like to say thank you to the Leader of Opposition, who was one of the members of this committee, and to our government committee members also. And I pledge as the chairman to be fair and to continue working with all involved for the benefit of our country. Thank you very much.
I recognize the member from Caribbean Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I join both the Leader of the Opposition and the member for Cayo South in commending at least the good portions of the bill. I think all in all, this is an excellent piece of legislation that certainly upgrades the ordinance. I can't believe we're still using those words, ordinances of 1962, and I believe that was even before our first National Assembly in 1963. And so this is certainly bringing up to speed, up to date, our National Assembly powers, privileges, and immunities. I acknowledge the recommendations made by the Leader of the Opposition. It is absolutely not the intention in any way to derail or to try to create a situation where there is no natural justice, where the leader refers to being present before a judicial officer. I know that there are provisions in here for recalcitrant witnesses to end up before a high court judge in those instances, but I do acknowledge the point made by the leader as it relates to warrants for appearance and they don't appear. So that's something like the member for Kaya South said we can look at, as well as the other provision moving forward. And so we move the second reading of this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Legislative Assembly Power and Privilege Act to declare and define certain powers, privilege, and immunities of the National Assembly and of the members and officers of such assembly, to secure freedom of speech in the National Assembly, to regulate admittance to the precincts of the National Assembly, and to give protection to the persons employed in the publication of the reports and other papers of the National Assembly, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto to read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Legislative Assembly Powers and Privileges Act. Committee of the Whole House on Bills.
Honorable members, the House will now resolve into a committee of the whole House to consider the bills that were read a second time. I would like to ask that the media and those in the galleries to leave during this portion of the sitting.
for third reading.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Central Bank of Belize Amendment Bill 2025 and passed it without amendment. I now move the third reading of that bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Belize Act, Chapter 262 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to provide for the Director General of the Financial Service Commission to be a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Belize, and to provide for matters connected to therewith or incidental thereto, be read a third time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to amend the Central Bank of Belize Act, Chapter 262 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Bill 2025 and passed it without amendments. I now move the third reading of that bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Bill Reform Act, Chapter 100 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to reform the bail framework in the criminal justice system and to provide for matters connected to therewith or incidental thereto, be read a third time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Bill Reform Act, Chapter 100 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Law Revision and Law Reform Bill 2025 and passed it without amendment. I now move the third reading of that bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Law Revision Act, Chapter 3 of the Substantive Law of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to modernize the system of revising, consolidating, and editing the laws of Belize, to establish an official Law Reform Commission to allow for the law of Belize to be reviewed and reformed on a systematic basis, and to provide for matters connected to therewith or incidental thereto, be read a third time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Law Revision Act, Chapter 3 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the National Assembly Powers, Privileges, and Immunities Bill 2025 and passed it with amendments. I now move the third reading of that bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to repeal and replace the Legislative Assembly Powers and Privilege Act to declare and define certain powers, privilege, and immunities of the National Assembly and of the members of officers of such assembly, to secure freedom of speech in the National Assembly, to regulate admittance to the precincts of the National Assembly, to give protection to the persons employed in the publication of the reports and other papers of the National Assembly, and to provide for matters connected to therewith or incidental thereto, be read a third time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to repeal and replace the Legislative Assembly Powers and Privileges Act.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House to adjourn.
I recognize the member from Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our congratulations to the 5 Cs on the occasion of their 20th anniversary. It has been a journey for Belize and for the 5 Cs to establish the regional organization here, but now they're 10 years standing strong, and we look forward to their continued partnership and collaboration in the next, for another 20 years, Mr. Speaker. I also wish, before I get into the matter of national concern, to join my prayers with those of the Prime Minister and the rest of the members in this House for our Honorable Speaker. 1 in 3, that's the ratio of women who have to endure cancer treatment, primarily for breast cancer. And it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart, Mr. Speaker, because both my mother and my sister have been part of that 1 in 3. In my family, the ratio is 2 out of 3. And so we ask for prayers for her and prayers for all those who continue to do the research to fight against cancer, the big C, the wicked C. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter of national concern, and I'm sorry that the member for Toledo West is not in the room, who serves as our Minister of Education. And I say that because the school year is now winding down, and our children are looking forward to the summer break. But before they can get a chance, they and their parents, to exhale a little, the anxiety of the next school year is already building. And the anxiety that I have experienced in my constituency office, Mr. Speaker, is that of access to the new school year. Even for those families who have received help from the Ministry of Education in terms of tuition support, and the residents of Albert have been beneficiaries of that assistance from the government of Belize. So I want to place on record our gratitude to the government of Belize and the Ministry of Education for their continued support for tuition assistance to families who are vulnerable. But the cost of education, whether we care to admit it or not, continues to rise. I want to read from 3 invoices from 3 schools that are grant-aided institutions in terms of the new fee structure that does not take into account the support that government provides. School number 1 is a high school, and this letter verifies that first student A is a first form student at our institution for the school year 2025-26. And these fees are due and payable by him for first form will be registration fee. This is not tuition. These are fees that the institutions are instituting. Registration fee, $350. First form student at a government-aided high school. Summer class, $150. Learning resources, $100. And then, of course, there's the monthly fees. You pay $30 a month for tuition time 11 months. That is where government assists. But then there are also practical fees. $105 for information technology, $105 for expressive arts, TD, technical drawing. And so the fees accumulates to $1,141. I will share it with you, Honorable. And then there is institution number 2. Besides the tuition arrangements for the school, activity and supplemental fee, $740. This is not tuition. Security and safety fees, $53. Student retreat, $25. And RF&G student insurance, $13. In addition, the additional fees come up to $831. This does not include books. This does not include tuition payments. This does not include uniforms or school supplies. Institution number 3. Institution number 3. Registration fee. Registration fees. Special fees for second form, $670. Fair class fundraising fee, $60. There are fees for cleaning and sanitizing. There are fees for a monthly newsletter, which does not include the tuition. Fees on its own amount to $1,122.50. Now, these are all high schools that I just discussed. And then there's sixth form, and there's sixth form grant-aided schools, government-aided schools. And then there are fees for tertiary education. So, academic bulletin, $35. Academic service fee, $335. There's a book fee with no explanation for $20. There's a lab fee. Well, we know we have to pay lab fees. There's a mission support fee for $40. And there's a student services fee for $372. The bill on this, the total of this invoice is $1,527. Of that amount, $500 is allocated for tuition. I think, member for Toledo West, these matters ought to be examined. There are families who are earning the minimum wage, who have 3 and 4 and 5 children in school, cannot afford these fees. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, if you're going from first form to second form, and you were not able to clear your bill, you're not going to second form. You're not going to graduate from preschool or primary school or second form. It is criminal. And when the schools, the families take the letters that we get from the Ministry of Education, and they take those letters and say, see, we have a commitment letter from the Ministry of Education to assist us with fees. Do you know what the response is? The typical response? They don't pay, so your letter is not valid. I can tell you, anxiety levels of families and parents, particular single family households, are high. Before the school year ends, they're coming to save their spot to make sure that their area representative can find a way to help them outside of the education assistance that we get from government. If not, their child don't have access to education to the next school year. And I will tell you, Mr. Speaker, that families bend backwards to ensure that their kids have access to education. I will also say we have done away with the assessment tests. So we don't know the national assessment, and we don't know what the national assessment of our children leaving primary school or high school and entering into higher institutions. So now it has become mandatory that every child, every summer, at the beginning of every school year, must do summer classes. It's not optional. I will tell you, there's a tertiary institution in this country that the bill for summer school, mandatory, is $435. And if the child doesn't have to show up for summer school, but the student must pay the $435 to have a space in the new school year. It is criminal, and something is wrong with it, and the relationship between the government and the church, state institutions need to be examined, and this situation has to be arrested, because I will tell you, it affects from preschool to university. Our children, our young Belizeans are being blocked out of having access to an education because they simply cannot afford it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member from Albert. I want to start off by acknowledging and thanking you for the concerns that you raised, Member. We at the Ministry of Education are aware that we do have some schools who are imposing additional fees. And certainly, I agree with you that by imposing these fees, they're making it more difficult for the students and for the parents. For us at the Ministry of Education and our government, we have always taken seriously the business of education. And that is why, as part of our commitment to ensure greater access and quality to education, we have undertaken several amendments and policies to ensure that we increase access and quality to education. And as you are all aware, one of the major amendments that we made was when we amended the school leaving age from 14 to 16. And this was in line with our government's policy to ensure that we have greater access and that we keep our students in school and that is why it went up from 14 to 16. We're also aware that part of our policy was to provide the education upliftment to schools, where we started initially with schools in the south side, where we piloted this project, where schools in the south side received 100% of their tuition, and then the ministry also provided support with uniforms, with physical education uniforms, and also as part of our ongoing support to ensure that students, stayed in school. We also initiated a very ambitious program called the Healthy Start Feeding Program. And again, many schools have, these Healthy Start Feeding programs, again, to support our students and parents and to ensure that we give greater access and, support for quality education. We continue to provide support through the assistance that we provide directly to schools, apart from the schools that are in the Education Upliftment Project. We also have a budget where we provide support to all, 31 area representatives who are here. And we also receive walk-in applications. So people who go to the district education centers and they go in and they leave their, their applications where they are seeking support. And we work and honor those because we understand, I understand, our ministry understands and supports the importance of access to education. And we know, as you said, that many of our parents struggle every year. So in view of that, our ministry has undertaken a very important initiative, to conduct a very comprehensive assessment of these same very issues that you have raised with a view to addressing them. And I ask you, Madam Member, to kindly make that information available to me, to us, because this is important. We understand that, schools, need fees and they need financial support. But it cannot be to the detriment of our parents and students. And all I ask this afternoon is that our schools, particularly our boards of management and our managements, have to be fair and take into account that the ministry has undertaken a great portion of these fees to ensure that there is some form of support and alleviation for our parents and students. So rest assured that for us at the Ministry of Education, we will address this situation. And I'm also aware, finally, that for the most part, we have schools that are, that are cooperative and they honor our letters. But I'm also aware that there are some schools who really play hardball. And the truth of the matter is that the Ministry of Education, every month we get an allocation from the Ministry of Finance. So we can only pay as those monies come in to the Ministry of Education. So it's a matter of working and understanding, each other. But thank you, Madam Member. I do appreciate the concern that you raised, and we are going to look into it. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Mesopotamia.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to speak on a matter of national importance. The continuous rise of living that continues to burden Belizean families from north to south. Mr. Speaker, I ask permission to refer to my notes, please. At our last House meeting, the Honourable Member from Cayo South suggested that I should speak to the Chinese community about reducing their profits and claimed that the government is ready to offer subsidies to assist. But Mr. Speaker, no subsidy plan was presented. Who goes into business to lose, Mr. Speaker? It is not only the Chinese businesses who operate retail stores in our country. Retailers come from all walks of life. This issue affects Belizeans of every background, and it must be treated as an economic challenge, not as a social or ethnic one. Let's talk facts. Competition drives down prices. The more retail shops we have, the more competitive the market. And it is the Belizean consumers who benefit with lower price, better service, and convenient access, to name a few. When retailers buy goods, they apply a markup, typically between 10 to 25%, to cover costs like fuel, electricity, rent, staff, security. That is just basic business reality, Mr. Speaker. What the member for Kayasau didn't say, Mr. Speaker, is that a few years ago, during the so-called price gouging crisis, senior government officials met with the larger Chinese retailers and other businesses group to discuss a solution. And yes, I was invited also. From the meeting with the Belizean Chinese businesses, it was agreed that government would create a task force to investigate what was really driving up the prices. And what did the investigation reveal? It wasn't all the retailers' fault. It was the importers. Retailers and wholesalers are simply buying from importers and add their markup. But the real price pressure was coming from the top with higher profit margins and market control. This was confirmed by Mr. Lennox Nicholson, Controller of Supplies, in an interview aired on March 31st, 2023, when he stated, "We met, quote unquote, we met with the Chinese community. A lot of them are retailers and wholesalers, but they are not importers. What we need to do is enforce agency is to be able to distinguish imported inflation ends and where gouging starts." Price gouging is not exclusively at the retail stores. Greater emphasis from GOB must be placed on importation. On April 13, 2023, Minister Mai said, "We met with the Chinese community. A lot of them are retailers and wholesalers, but they are not importers." Mr. Speaker, according to a Channel 7 news report between September 1st and November 3rd, 2023, the Supplies Control Unit inspected 112 retail outlets. Of those, 59 were found in violation of the Supplies Control Regulation. Those businesses are from all walks of life, including some Belizean Chinese businesses, yes, and were ticketed, named publicly, and fined under the law. Now let me turn a couple facts from 2024 to 2025, and my source is the Statistical Institute of Belize. Food inflation 6.3%, vegetables and fruit over 15%, fuel $13 a gallon with no relief in sight, bread 15.6%, salt, milk, red beans, and yes, somebody come down to like onions, tomatoes, chicken leg, and sugar dropped by 25%. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member from Kayasau challenged me to bring forward solutions, not only criticism. I have done some research and consulted with the retailers and wholesalers. Here's a few that stood out. High fuel and electricity costs form a major part of retail overhead and are passed down to the consumers. The import permit system is closed, restricted, and favors only a few. That limits competition and helps keep the price high. The government continues to overspend on capital projects, especially roads, while offering little to no direct relief to working Belizeans. I have to ask, you know, I never get a chance to answer last time, so I have to answer, you know. I propose the following. Open the import permit system to allow all qualified Belizeans to bring in goods. This will increase competition, reduce monopolies, and lower prices across the board. Lower fuel and electricity prices by offering targeted tax relief to consumers and small businesses. Scale back unnecessary capital spending, especially on infrastructure projects, and redirect those funds that reduces household costs immediately. And also making sure that the groceries bags are distributed to the most vulnerable areas. hoping that Mr. Patena and also the Southside divisions, we get some of those grocery bags. Mr. Speaker, what good is a brand new hot mix road if the people are suffering high inflation and high costs? The problem lies at the top of the supply chain. The time to act is now. No more blame game. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Kayo South.
We're having a great day today. I'm glad that the member from Mesopotamia had the opportunity to investigate, analyze, and present. We didn't have that opportunity the last time, and I welcome what you have said. You're now putting the blame on the importers. Whoever you mentioned.
A point of clarification, Mr. Speaker. It wasn't I that said that. It was the investigation from the government of Mr. Nicholson that said that, not I. Thank you.
The member from Mesop mentioned it in the House. So you're just repeating what somebody else said, but you said it. You said it. That's fine. It's not a problem. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm saying it is an issue that the government of Belize and the people of Belize have to look at. And if we believe in accountability and transparency, then the information is a positive one. It gives government an opportunity to look at the issues and to see where the possible cooperation and coordination. What I meant when I got up the last time was we need to sit down more often, the private sector with government, to see how we can reduce the cost of living. That is democracy. It is not a dictatorship. And by cooperation, by communication, by sitting down and by discussing the facts, our government, I am assured, will be able to have to look at possible solutions. I am being respectful, Leader of the Opposition, but it is not your turn to speak. Yes, so can you please, thank you. But you just said you wouldn't and you still. Can I continue, ma'am?
Member, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm in a good mood today as Leader of the Opposition. I am accepting all that you criticize and you do, and I'm still accepting it. Really good. Because I am in a good mood, because this discussion is positive for the country of Belize. And this government believes that proper discussion, proper analysis will lead to better results. There's only one topic that I think you heard, which is the last one, and you touched infrastructure. Yeah, it made it go good. Since this party got into government, we had a mandate. The mandate was for infrastructure to be able to help the economic activity of the country. In order for our farmers to be able to bring produce to the market at reduced rates, the mandate given to us by the Prime Minister at MIDH was to make sure that the road accessibility to the farmers was better than it was before. That helps the retailers, that helps the restaurant business, that helps the markets, because the farmers don't have to go through the stress of breaking up their vehicles or not even able to take out their produce to market. Roads assist in the development of a country. It assists in economic development. So I know you have been trying to use sexy terms, hitting infrastructure. We have all done that. Sometimes you have to be creative and not follow. You have to think for yourself and not follow. because your rhetoric is becoming boring. Infrastructure is an immense and incredible asset for any developing country to have. Without infrastructure, we can't go to school, we can't go to work, we can't do our political work, we can't do our business, we can't take out our produce to market. There are so many things that can't be done. So, infrastructure is not everything, but it shares, and it is a major part and a major component in the economic development of this country. So, think of something else that is more credible. Bring another topic next time. I am being extremely professional and nice with you at this time. I would recommend that the first portion of your presentation was, I believe, credible. But you lost a little bit of flair in the end. And I'm here to assist you the next time that you don't go down that wrong direction. Thank you very much, sir, and have a nice day.
I move.
Honorable members, the question is that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Those against, kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. The House now stands adjourned.
Falar que vai mudar seu rumo. Ele está enviando um consolo pra tua alma. Enxugue essas lágrimas no rosto e tenha calma. Vai passar. Eu sei que essa luta logo vai passar. Está doendo, mas não vai querer parar.
pensar em você morrer. Você precisa crer. Vai chegar a solução pra tudo que te aconteceu. Você vai ter de volta o que você perdeu. Só não se desespere, pelo amor de Deus. Vai passar, meu irmão. Vai passar, vai passar. Não se desespere, vai passar. Aleluia. Não se desespere, vai passar.
Se não fosse Deus, não sei o que teria acontecido. Confesso, já teria desistido. É até difícil de imaginar. Se não fosse Deus, jamais eu chegaria até aqui. Eu não teria forças pra seguir. Dias ruins eu tive que enfrentar.
Doeu demais quando eu ouvi: esse já era, não vai conseguir. No auge da dor eu chorava sozinho, sem nada entender. Mas um certo dia, como outro qualquer, desses que a gente quase perde a fé, ouvi uma voz me dizendo bem forte: estou com você.
Sou eu quem te sustento e te ajudo. Sou eu mesmo, Deus, nunca mudo. Te carrego no colo quando você quer parar. Te tomo pela mão e te ajudo a avançar.
É meu tempo certo de fazer. É meu tempo de te responder.
Seja renovado, motivado, seja cheio de autoridade, de poder.
É a minha mão que abre e fecha. É a minha mão que leva e traz. Com uma palavra eu mudo a história. Faço na guerra o reino de paz.
É a minha mão que vai te guiando. É a minha mão que está te guardando.
É a potente mão de Deus que em todo tempo está no comando.
Doeu demais quando eu ouvi: esse já era, não vai conseguir. No auge da dor eu chorava sozinho, sem nada entender. Mas um certo dia, como outro qualquer, desses que a gente quase perde a fé, ouvi uma voz me dizendo bem forte: estou com você.
Sou eu que te sustento e te ajudo. Sou eu mesmo, Deus, e nunca mudo. Te carrego no colo quando você quer parar. Te tomo pela mão e te ajudo a avançar.
É
Seja renovado, motivado, seja cheio de autoridade, de poder. É a minha mão que abre e fecha. É a minha mão que leva e traz. Com a palavra eu mudo a história. Faço uma guerra, o reino de paz. É a minha mão que vai te guiar. É a minha mão que está te guardando. É a potente mão de Deus que em todo tempo